What if I told you that the world bends not to the loudest voice, but to the one who walks like they belong? That you don't rise when the world approves? You rise when you decide you already are? There's a power that lives inside you, waiting not to be earned, but to be claimed. You do not wait for applause to be excellent. You do not collect approvals to validate your calling. Greatness does not come by consensus. It arrives through conviction. It walks into a room with shoulders high and eyes steady, not because it was invited, but because it knew it belonged before the door was ever built. The world will not always recognize it at first sight. It may ignore, it may dismiss, it may resist. But true greatness is not deterred by silence. It is not reduced by rejection. It is not threatened by shadows. It simply is. Presence is the language of greatness, a stillness that speaks, a poise that commands, a self-awareness so whole that it does not need decoration or explanation. When you walk with presence, people feel you before you speak. You don't enter the room looking for validation. You are the validation, because your existence is not a question mark waiting to be answered by others' opinions. It is a statement. Period. A full sentence written by struggle, by faith, by choosing yourself in rooms where others hoped you'd remain invisible. You see, the world has trained many to wait to be called on, to wait to be seen, to wait until they feel ready, good enough, perfect. But presence is the rebellion. It is the refusal to wait for what your soul already knows you are. It is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is when your inner knowing matches your outer energy. It is when you show up not to prove, but to be, not to chase, but to claim. Presence cannot be taught in books. It is born in silence, in suffering, in the sacred decision to no longer dim for comfort. You gain it when you have been overlooked and yet choose to stand anyway, when you have been underestimated and yet refuse to shrink, when you walk away from needing permission and begin walking in your own power. It is not the noise that defines you, but the depth, not the spotlight, but the substance. Not how many are watching, but who you are when no one is clapping. There will always be those who want you to tone it down, to step aside, to wait your turn, but presence doesn't ask whose turn it is. Presence does not look around for approval. Presence arrives like sunrise, quiet, certain, undeniable. It does not argue. It does not announce itself with fanfare. It simply shows up full and refuses to be small. Because greatness has never been about popularity. It has always been about presence. That rare, holy energy that says, I am here, not because you let me, but because I never needed you to. There is a trap laid quiet and clever in this world, and it is the mirror made of other people's opinions, a mirror crafted from glances, gossip, fleeting trends, and borrowed truths. It calls you to look at yourself through the eyes of those who neither built you nor understand you. It whispers that your worth lies in the likes, the nods, the applause that comes and goes like waves against rock. But if you live by that mirror, you will forever chase your own shadow. You will never be whole, only shaped by the shifting hands of those who never learned to hold themselves. The reflection that matters does not glow from glass, it glows from within. It is carved in silence, in solitude, in the early mornings when you face yourself and ask not what the world sees, but what your soul knows. Because what the world sees is filtered through its own wounds, through its own fears, through its own projections. They will tell you that you are too much or not enough, too loud or too quiet, too bold or too soft, all in the same breath. And if you are not anchored, you will begin to mold yourself to fit their comfort, not your calling. When your reflection is internal, you are no longer swayed by the winds of praise or the chill of disapproval. You walk into rooms with the kind of calm that cannot be faked, the kind of dignity that doesn't flinch under scrutiny. You are not waiting to be told who you are. You are remembering who you are. You become less interested in mirrors and more devoted to inner windows, the kind that open to purpose, resilience, ancestry, and divine truth. You see, when people speak of you, they speak more of themselves than of your truth. They reflect their own insecurities onto your image. They measure you against their own limits. And so, if you continue to shape your self-image by what they reflect, you will become a distorted version of your own potential. But when you turn inward, when you root your reflection in grace, wisdom, and self-respect, you become unshakable. You begin to glow from places mirrors cannot reach. You stop asking, how do they see me? And start asking, do I honor the truth of who I am? Because only you know what it took to get here. Only you know the battles you fought silently, the tears that no one dried but you, the prayers you whispered into your own darkness. And so, only you have the right to define the image you hold of yourself. This world will hand you 1,000 mirrors, each one polished to reflect something different. But when you no longer seek yourself in them, when you begin to carry your own vision like a crown, you walk through the world with an authority that no shattered glass can touch. You don't need to be seen to be known. You don't need to be praised to be powerful. You only need to see yourself clearly from within, where the real reflection was waiting all along. Self-respect is not the show you put on for others. It is the quiet decision you make when no one is looking. It's the choice to get up when life pushes you down, not because someone is watching, but because you are watching. It is not the curated words in a speech or the practiced smile in the mirror. It is the deep, unwavering commitment to treat yourself with dignity, even when the world gives you every excuse to forget who you are. Some believe self-respect is something to be performed, worn like an outfit for special occasions, brought out only in the presence of others, dressed up in achievements and validations. But no, true self-respect is not flashy. It is not loud. It is steady. It is the quiet refusal to be spoken to like you are less than. It is the way you hold your posture in a room where your name is not yet known. It is the strength to say no when your heart means no, even if saying yes would be easier, more pleasing, more accepted. Self-respect is how you feed your body, how you guard your energy, how you speak to yourself when you fall short. It is found in the limits you enforce, not out of coldness, but out of reverence. It is how you answer the door to your life, not allowing chaos to enter dressed as company, not letting insecurity borrow your voice. It is waking up and deciding that even if the world forgets your worth today, you won't. You see, when you treat self-respect like a performance, it becomes brittle. It cracks under pressure. It relies on applause. But when it becomes a practice, something tended to, nurtured, repeated, it becomes part of your foundation, a ritual of remembering. It doesn't mean you never doubt. It doesn't mean you never ache, but it means that even in the ache, you do not abandon yourself. Some days, self-respect looks like walking away. Other days, it looks like staying and standing your ground. Sometimes it's silence, sometimes it's fire, but it is always anchored in the same truth. You are worthy of honor, even when the world is too blind or too broken to see it. You are worthy of gentleness. You are worthy of boundaries. You are worthy of starting over without shame and showing up without permission. And so you wake each morning not to perform yourself for the world, but to return to yourself in practice. You speak to yourself in kindness, not because you've earned it, but because you need it. You protect your peace, not because it's trendy, but because it's sacred. And you refuse to make a spectacle out of your healing, because self-respect is not about being seen. It is about being held by you, for you, in every moment, every breath, every choice. You were never meant to answer every whisper. You were never born to chase every doubt that rose behind your back like smoke. You were not made to sit in rooms justifying your existence, your choices, your growth. No, your walk, how you carry yourself, how you show up, how you keep going, must say what words cannot. Because when your presence becomes your response, doubt becomes irrelevant. There will be voices that question your worth before they've ever seen your work, eyes that scan you for flaws before they witness your brilliance, tongues that twist your name before they've earned the right to speak it. But your walk, your journey, your consistency, your refusal to bow to their disbelief is the answer they never expected. It is the sermon that needs no pulpit. It is the testimony that requires no mic. Your walk is not just the steps you take, but the way you take them. It is the rhythm of someone who has been broken and rebuilt, of someone who has cried in silence and still rose with grace, of someone who has been underestimated and yet kept walking, not in arrogance, but in truth. It's the pace of someone who no longer asks for space, but takes it, who no longer lowers their voice to fit in, but walks with a soundless thunder that shifts the very atmosphere. See, doubt doesn't need to be confronted head on. It feeds off your reaction. It grows in the soil of your defensiveness. But when you simply walk, head lifted, feet grounded in purpose, it begins to fade. People may still whisper, but their words will lose shape in the face of your presence. The doubt they once carried will turn into confusion and then into awe, because there is no defense against a person who just keeps walking forward in their becoming. You do not have to speak louder. You do not have to shout your value across rooftops. You do not have to hold press conferences for your evolution. Your walk will do it. Your discipline, your grace under fire, your ability to show up even when you are tired of being unseen. That is the power. That is the roar dressed in silence. That is the kind of strength that outlasts rumor, outlives opinion, outshines expectation. They will say you changed. Let them. They will say you think you're better. Let them. What they call pride is often just peace. What they call distance is often just self-respect. You are not responsible for their inability to see your light. You are only responsible for keeping it lit. And as long as you keep walking with intention, walking with integrity, walking with the kind of calm that comes from knowing you need no validation to be valid, your walk will always speak louder than their doubt. Confidence is not gifted to you in the hush of a compliment or the roar of an applause. It is not handed down through bloodlines or found in books that gather dust on shelves. No, confidence is the legacy you earn, slowly, quietly, fiercely, from the moments when fear told you to sit down and you chose to stand anyway. It is not born in ease. It is born in fire. Each act of courage is a seed, and confidence is the harvest that grows from your willingness to plant it in the soil of uncertainty. The world has tried to convince us that confidence is a performance, that it lives in perfect words, perfect posture, perfect timing. But those who have truly lived know otherwise. Confidence is not loud, it is rooted. It does not demand the room, it simply enters it. It does not plead to be seen. It becomes undeniable through presence, through resilience, through the quiet power of showing up again and again, even when your knees tremble. Every time you spoke when your voice was shaking. Every time you walked into a room you weren't sure you belonged in. Every time you tried again when failure dared you to quit. Those were the sacred acts of courage that wove threads into the fabric of your confidence. It is not arrogance, not vanity, not ego. It is the deep, unwavering knowing that you have faced yourself in the dark and chosen not to abandon your own light. Confidence remembers what you survived when others only remember your silence. It carries the memory of nights when you wept in solitude, yet still showed up in the morning with your head unbowed. It whispers back to you in moments of doubt, not because the path is clear, but because you remember who you've become while walking it. Confidence does not come from being untouched by fear. It comes from moving forward in spite of it. It is not passed down from someone else. It is inherited from your own bravery, your own decisions, your own relentless capacity to believe in something even when no one clapped for it. It is the child of your courage, and it grows every time you dare to choose yourself over comfort, purpose over popularity, peace over pretending. Every act of self-respect feeds it. Every boundary builds it. Every truth you live adds to it. Confidence is a silent companion, not a boastful shield. It doesn't scream. It simply walks with you. It doesn't seek attention. It honors your journey. It lives in your spine, your steps, your stillness. And when you begin to understand that no one else can give it to you, that it rises only from the courage you've lived, not the praise you've received, you will stop looking outside for it and start standing inside it, fully, boldly, unapologetically. There is a power in you that didn't begin with you. It stretches back, beyond your breath, beyond your childhood, beyond the stories you were told to shrink yourself inside of. Acting as if you're the best isn't arrogance, it's remembrance. It's the sacred echo of those who walked before you, heads high, even when the world tried to keep them bowed. It is the dignity passed through struggle, the fire braided into the lineage of your blood, the unspoken knowing that you do not walk into greatness, you wake up to it. The world may not always recognize this kind of confidence. It may mistake your certainty for pride, your voice for rebellion, your presence for defiance. Let it. Because the truth is, what they call arrogance is often just a woman or a man who has finally remembered who they were before the world taught them to forget. It is the reclaiming of a divine truth that your excellence is not an accident and your worth does not need permission to stand tall. You do not act like you're the best to belittle anyone else. You do it to honor the generations that were told they never could. You do it to carry the torch that was handed to you by those who never had the luxury of being seen, but still lived in greatness. You do it because you are the living, breathing proof that their resilience was not in vain. This kind of confidence doesn't come from the mirror. It comes from memory, from legacy, from survival that turned into strength. When you walk into a room like you belong there, when you speak your truth with clarity and calm, when you refuse to shrink so others can feel comfortable, this is not ego. This is reclamation. This is spirit. This is the soul of those who danced, who fought, who prayed, who bled, who built, speaking through your bones. It's not a performance, it's a prophecy unfolding. You were never meant to tiptoe through your own life, apologizing for the way your light fills the space. Acting as if you're the best doesn't mean you believe you are better than anyone. It means you finally understand that no one is better than you. And that understanding is not taught. It is remembered. It is felt in your spine when you stop asking for permission to be powerful. It is carried in your voice when you stop softening the truth to make it easier to swallow. It is visible in your decisions when you stop choosing safety over soul. This is the inheritance they couldn't steal. This is the identity no one can erase. You are not just here to exist. You are here to reign in the territory of your own becoming. You are not here to ask who you can be. You are here to be it, fully, loudly, softly, unapologetically, with grace, with truth, with the unshakable knowing that the greatness you walk in today is not new. It is ancient. It is sacred. It is yours.